You've scattered your seed among the thorns, and tonight you're gonna reap it. You're gonna reap it in spades.
Hi, this is the Professional Amateur Hour coming to you with another review. This week, Leo sent me the 2021 movie Potter's Ground, which is directed by Michael Butts and stars Isaiah Stratton, Scott Crane, Todd Bush, among others. The story of this supernatural western is that there's this group of Confederate marauders, and they are tasked with finding a city of gold. But first, they must find 3 parts of an amulet and then combine the amulet together to find the city. So they have a little adventure trying to pick up each part. Along the way, Union soldiers show up, monsters show up as well. What will happen exactly? You'll have to watch and find out. Alright, so what I like about this movie? Well, I actually had quite a bit of fun watching it. I know the story is kind of very straightforward, go find this stuff and then bring it back. And so they're always kind of working towards little different action set pieces, which is pretty good if you're an action adventure lover. It does slow down a little bit to do some character development and whatnot, but it's always working towards some type of fun, Mexican standoff or fighting these werewolf type of creatures or being trapped by the Union. And so they're always working towards kind of little action pieces, which did make it quite a bit of fun, though you don't have to think about it too much, and then you'll be perfectly fine. And the way the story is told is pretty interesting. They don't have chapters, but they have like black screens at the end of like what would be a chapter, and then it would be a quote from one of the characters in the story. And I thought that was a lot of fun. It brings me into it more. I'm always looking for those quotes because they show it and then they say it's within the next 10 minutes. And so that's always fun to see who says it and how it's said and its meaning, because some things don't make too much sense, but or like out of context, And then there's also like lots of fun ones that you really look for. I think one's like oh, that's a high dollar hooker or something. And so you're looking for that. That's lots of fun. Definitely got me more involved in the movie than I should have been. In addition, I thought there were quite a few memorable lines in this one. I definitely came out thinking about those lines and even remembering them to the next day. So there's one about like Kentucky Steel that I really liked.
Wonder how it fares against Kentucky Lead.
There's one about like Mexican standoffs that I really like. There's those title cards, like I said, are often very memorable lines. And so there are quite a few good things about the writing here. As for the acting was perfectly fine. Everyone did a good job, though I think some of their accents weren't, quite the best for their characters. They're all supposed to be like Confederate characters, but none of them have like a Southern accent or a Southern drawl. I think there's only like 1 or 2 characters that really have that style of accent. I know like with the Confederacy, like Tennessee and Kentucky is more kind of like middle of the US. And so their accents, I can totally forgive that, America's like a mishmash of people, so they can have whatever accent they like. And my last point here is kind of a double-edged sword. With this movie, it's kind of like a mishmash of genres. It's primarily a Western action movie, but then they also have like horror elements in there. They have like graveyards with like smoke machines, monsters show up, so it's supposed to be a little bit scary. And so they have all these mishmash of genres. I think they all work together mainly as like, an adventure type of movie. And so I would include that in the good category. But if you're looking for horror, this is not a horror. All right, so what doesn't work with this movie? Well, I did say I like the story, but you really can't think about it that much. There's quite a few things that just kind of don't make sense. Like one point, they just kind of like wake up in jail, and it's never explained why. It's never explained how they got there. They're just like wake up there and then propositioned with this task. Also, like I said, monsters show up for no reasons. The main bad guy, he often teleports. So he might, teleport to a cave or teleport to a graveyard or teleport wherever they need him without explanation, and even like kind of seemingly like teleporting past lookouts and stuff. So there's no real consistency in when he shows up. So again, just don't think about it that much and you will have fun. And with regard to their outfits, I thought their outfits were nice, but far too clean. You know, in a Western movie, you know, they're digging in graveyards and stuff, so you expect them to get dirty. But no, their clothes are perfectly clean. They do have like dirty makeup, like they just throw some brown makeup on to look like dirt. But then you would think, like, if your face is that dirty, you know, how are your clothes not dirty? So as long as you don't think about it, it works. But it did bother me that, you know, their clothes were never getting dirty, but their faces were getting dirty all the time. And also, I know I said I liked kind of the more memorable lines, but there were also a few lines that were memorable for being uncool. Or at least, in my opinion, very modern, like out of place within a Western. Like someone says, "Oh, I don't feel like Mexican tonight." Right? That's something you would say when you're selecting restaurants, and I can't imagine they would have too many, you know, choices back in 1860. And I guess they're all supposed to be cowboys, or at least they're wearing cowboy hats or something. And what do cowboys say? It's like, yeehaw! But there's this one cowboy, and he says, yo ho.
Yo ho.
Do cowboys say yo ho? Like, I always thought like that was a pirate or sailor thing to say, but I can never imagine a cowboy saying that. So that was really out of place as well. So even though there were some memorable lines, there were a few uncool lines. In addition, if you're a fan of B-movies, you know about the abrupt ending that some of them have, where they just kind of end very suddenly. And this one is the same. It is comical how they do it, but yeah, it's just a very abrupt ending that really just kind of like took me out of it in the end. Of course, then the credits roll, so I am out of it, but yeah, very sudden. And lastly, this might sound like a nitpick, but I don't know why the main characters are part of the Confederacy. You could have them part of the Union and have exactly the same story. It just doesn't make sense for them to be part of the Confederacy to me. I always think whenever I see something like that, it's kind of like subconsciously glorifying the Confederacy, and that's not something I'm really into. I'm not really, you know, rooting for the Confederacy, and so it's just something strange that I do notice in some of these Western movies. So who would I recommend this movie to? Well, I think if you like action and adventure and Western movies, you can check this out and have a perfectly fun time. If you're into horror, there's no real horror elements. There's this kind of like this little sprinkling of horror on it. So if you're into that type of stuff, if horror Western sounds like something you would want to see, yeah, then check this movie out. As for a rating, I'm going to give it above average score of 6. Because if you're not really thinking about the movie, you should have some fun with this one. Having said that, I think that's all I wanted to say. So subscribe for daily content, and I will see you next time.